Peace and love, family. Welcome to Keep Firing Offline. I am your host, D. Taylor. Now, family, Keep Firing Offline is a new series where we get up close and personal with amazing people to keep you inspired. And today, we have a phenomenal guest with us. She is a vocalist. She is a performer. She is formerly 1/3 of the bad boy R&B crew Total. And now she is an author of the new book, Total Exposure, Pieces of Me. She is Miss Pamela Long. What's up, Pam?
What's going on, D? How are you? Thank you.
I'm well. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. After I read your book, I'm like, oh, we got to talk. We got to talk.
That's what's up.
So we're definitely going to get into the book in a moment, but we're music lovers around here. So I got to start with just a few questions. Because the funny thing is, even though I know you, I don't know Total's story. And I don't even know when you decided that you wanted to be a performer. You know, what was your inspiration? So I kind of want to start there. Like, when did you discover that you wanted to be a singer?
You know what, D? It all started, I would try to say 8 or 9-ish. I was actually in church, and that first time I sung a solo in church, it was just like, you know, and the reaction of those in the church, it was just like, oh, I can sing. But I knew as a young girl growing up, it was just something that I did all the time. You know, as a toddler, it was just something that was just innate. It was just in me. It was something that God had given to me. So with that, it was just like, but I didn't really know that I can sing until, you know, the first time I sung in church and I got the response. And I wanted to sing every Sunday.
Gotcha. So at what point did you meet Keisha and Kima? Like, how did that come together?
Right. I actually met Kima and Keisha. That came about when I was 15 years old. I actually went to the studio. A young man, a friend of the family by the name of Alex Kennedy, he took me over to a studio in Plainfield, New Jersey. I met a gentleman by the name of Norman Bradley. He had written a song, and I went in and recorded it. It was my first time ever recording. I never recorded a song before, and the song came out really, really well. And so after that, you know, I went home, and that night, my mom was actually about to get at me, honestly, because I came in so late. And it was just like, Mom, wait. And she heard the song. So, of course, I didn't get a whooping. Thank God for that. And then then after that, I went to the studio the next day, and I saw Kim and Keisha in passing. I didn't know them. And Norman was actually working with them they were a duo. And I didn't know that they actually was looking for a third member in the group. So probably about a couple of weeks later, maybe 2 weeks later or so, Norman, you know, we would kind of say hi and bye here and there or whatever. And Norman was like, I think that he's like, what you think about becoming a group? And I was just like, no. I'm
Really?
15 years old. I was like, no. Yeah, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And we were all on the phone. And, it was just because I was 15, kind of feeling myself a little bit, just knucklehead. And, I kind of just gave it, I finally gave into it. I was just like, all right, I'll do it. And it kind of did it like that. And the rest was history.
So was the name always Total, or was it something else before?
The name was Total Opposite. Keisha had came up with the name, the Total Opposite, because when you look at us, all three of us are completely opposite of one another. So it's just like, and when, our name was Total Opposite. And so we was running with that. And then when we finally met Puff, and we met Puff actually through a woman by the name of Kathy Dukes, God rest her soul. Her son was actually Puff's godson. And she took us to the studio. We met her through a couple of guys that Keisha and Kima knew. And we met Kathy. She became our manager. And she had us performing on the streets, like, for everybody. We'd be riding down the street. She'd like, jump out the car now and start singing. And we looking like, oh, but at the time, we wouldn't think that it was her grooming us, but it was. It was like she was grooming us for stage. We sung for CL Smooth. We sung for Glenn. We used to dance for Heavy D. It was just like she had us singing for so many people. And one day she's like, I'm going to take you guys to Puff Daddy. And so we was just, we all excited about the situation, still scared as well. And I remember the day when Puff came down, he was at the Hit Factory. Okay. And he came down on the elevator. As soon as he stepped in, it was just like, we just swarmed him. The doors closed, and we was all in his face singing. And, he kind of was just looking at us, with that Puff look. And so, so then what happened after that was that he got off the elevator. He went into to this room, to the lounge room, and we just started performing. And we performed our hearts out. In his face, had him up just in his face like this. And it was just like, after a while, he smiled a little bit because at first he was hitting us with the puff face. Like, it's just like, it was nothing, no kind of expression,
Yeah.
no expression, nothing. So he asked us our names after we finished, and that was it. And it was just like, it was kind of a like heartbreak. It's just like, dog, he's not going to say nothing else. So of course, you devastated. Your heart is broken. You got the little tears. You like, he ain't like us. And 5:00 that morning, he called Kathy and was like, don't take those girls anywhere. I want to sign them to my label. And so with that, he began to call us Total for short. That's how Opposite fell off.
Okay.
Yeah, he just started calling us Total. Yeah, Puff was like, yo, he's like Total. And because of that, the Opposite was dropped, and boom.
So where in the Bad Boy trajectory was this? Was this while he was still at Uptown technically, or did he already have Bad Boy started by this point?
He was actually still with Uptown, and it was just like, he was Puff. He was just like, he's still, this is when he was giving out the Craig Mack and the Biggie. Remember the Big
Mac? Yeah. The Big Mac.
The whole thing. Yeah. So it's just like, that's when he had the marketing thing going on. He was ripping the game, and so it was just like, it was Craig, Big, and Total signed at that time.
Got you. Yeah. So who came out first? So did Craig Mack come out first, or was Biggie first? Craig Mack was first.
Yep. Craig came first. Yep. He dropped Baby in Your Ear.
Got you. So how long did it take from you guys being signed to actually putting out the first single? Because even before the album came out, the single was on the New Jersey Drive soundtrack, wasn't it? Did I get that wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
So how long did that take? So you guys get signed, and like, what was the process to getting to like that first single?
You know what? What happened before that is that when Big dropped Juicy, Kima and Keisha actually sung on Juicy.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know
their
that.
Voices. Yeah, so and then it was just like, that day what happened with myself, I didn't go. I just so happened because I was one who just liked to stay home, so they went out. And just so happened they went to the studio with Big and they sung on the record, and they called me and told me I was hurt. I was just like, oh man, I was hurt about that situation. But after that, what happened is that we came out, Puff put the song out on the New Jersey Drive soundtrack, Can't You See? And it was just like, it took off. Yeah. And from there, I don't know if Puff didn't think that it was going to take off like that, or it was just like we weren't prepared. We didn't have an album done. When we signed to Puff, when we first met Puff, it was just like when things were still starting off and I was still a baby, my mom had to sign a contract with me, so it was just like, so it was just like I'm 16 years old and I'm signing a Puff and we didn't come out. Can't You See didn't hit until, like you said, 95. I graduated from high school in 94. So it's just like, when I graduated, I was able to sign my own contract, but for the most part, it was just like we were allowed to be groomed during that time. We were able to see Jodeci. We were able to see Mary. We were able to see what was going on in the industry. And he also had us at that time, going to different vocal coaches and, working on different songs with different people to see what the flavor was going to be, to see what the sound was going to sound like, with certain writers and things like that, I believe, because he had us with different people. And so, but it was really good. Yeah, it was really good. We were learning a lot.
Yeah. See, I'm a music lover, so I got so many questions, but I don't want to go too far in the deep end. But I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned producers, and like you said, I mean, you guys work with like the best of the best. You work with Raphael Sadiq, you work with D-Dot and the rest of the hitmen and all that, and you work with Missy and Timbaland. Like, what were those experiences like working with these great producers and songwriters?
It was phenomenal. Even before Pharrell became Pharrell, before he blew up, we worked with Pharrell on the album. He did the, I believe it was
he did a remix, didn't he?
I think it was the Bee Gees track, Baby I Can't Figure, the Boy Meets Girl joint.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that record. So it's just like, it was so many people that Puff had us with, Chucky Thompson and we was working with Herb Middleton and so many different people on this album. So it was awesome. It was just like, it was such a color in the album. And then too, the writer at the time for the first album, for the most part, because Keisha and Omar, her husband, actually wrote Tell Me.
And that's my favorite song. I talked to Keisha about that. Yeah, because I ended up reading the credits like sometime later, and I saw Omar's name in the credits, and I asked Keisha about that a few years ago because that's my favorite song. Yeah.
Wow, D, yes. So it's just like we really had this. It was just like it was so awesome. And then Terry Robinson, she actually just she captured the sound that we needed, and Puff just allowed her to go with the entire album. She had written at the time So For Real's album, so it was just like Terry was.
Oh wow.
She was out of here. So it was just like yes, and because of such, it was just like the sound was so dope with her. And it was just like Puff just had us working with different producers, and then for the second album, of course, it was just a whole nother level.
Man, so let me back up for a second because you got to give me a Biggie story. Were you guys in the studio with Biggie for Can't You See, or was that separate?
Yes, we was there.
So you were in the studio with him. So what was that like? Like, what was Biggie like in the studio?
All right, so we had already cut our vocals, right? And so Big comes in and he sat in the chair, and it was just like he sat there and was like, I got it. Mm-hmm. He's just like he got it. He's just like he's just not doing big, of course. Yeah. And he's just there. Boom, he in and go in and give me all the chicken heads.
Yeah.
Yo, he ripped it. That joint right there, forever a classic. That is one of my favorite records ever. Favorite video, hands down. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that too because I mean, you guys came out and it was just so different. I remember like first seeing that video and you guys got the black outfits and the whole bad girl thing. Like, what was that like for you in terms of reaching fame and stardom and all that? Like, I guess there's really no way to be prepared for it, but what was that journey like for you?
It was like a kid's dream come true. All my life at that time when all I was thinking about was just like, I'm a kid, coming from the projects, and my thing is living in the projects. And my thing was that I just want to make my mama rich. That was it. I just want to give my mama a better life. And so to be able to have that moment was just like, it was so dope. Like you looking at yourself on TV, but it doesn't hit you that way because at first, don't get me wrong, we heard the song so much. It was just like, okay. But then when everybody else reacted, now you like, oh,
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So it was just like, it was amazing. It was amazing. It can never be, it can't be matched as far as when you obtain something as such, as a young kid, you always sit back and, I watched Michael Jackson and I watched, his career. I watched Whitney Houston. I saw all of these people come up. I saw Mary, I saw Jodeci, and now to be on television and for people to be screaming your name and yelling your name is kind of just like,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you guys came up in a time where like it was R&B everywhere, right? Even as far as groups are concerned, you had your SWV, you had En Vogue, you had Jade, and this one and that one. So it's like, was it competitive or was it more like a camaraderie and you guys were inspired by each other?
It was just like, you know what? I think that at one point it was like, it could have been competition, but not from our side. I think it was more or less that people can put you in certain kind of categories and then be like, oh, this one better than that one and that one better than that one. But it's just like everybody had their own feel. That's the thing that I love about that era is that everybody had their own individuality. It's like SWV was SWV. Total couldn't be them and they couldn't be Total. Just like with Escape, it's just like we couldn't be Escape and Escape couldn't be us. And it's just like, but that's what was so dope about music back then. It was so like the individuality. It was like authentic. It was so dope. It's just like, Total was known for the leather. Escape known for the baggy clothes and hip hop and going. SWV known for the voices, sisters with voices. Coco coming through, blowing everything out the water in the harmonies. Taj and Lily holding it down, and it's just like the harmonies was just ridiculous. So it's just like with all of that, to me, it was just like I think it was more or less that people would try to make it competitive opposed to us as the artists. Got you.
So you guys get to the second album. My second favorite song is "Sitting Home," by the way. And I don't know who your glam squad was for that video, but like, listen, your makeup, like everything in that video was like
Ripped it.
so on point. It was ridiculous. Like you need to travel with that
Thank you.
glam squad at all times.
Yes.
Like that. Like they had you like
Yeah.
right. You know what I mean? But
Right.
so the second album comes out. You know, you guys have Sitting Home. What was the first single?
Tripping.
Tripping. You had Tripping.
Yeah.
You guys had What About Us? That was on the Soul Food soundtrack too. So you guys were hot, right? Like, and then there was no third album. So
Right.
like,
Yes.
I never heard the story. Like what happened? I mean, you talked about it a little bit in the book, I guess, in a way where you talk, there's a chapter about when you said yes to God,
Right.
when you said, you know, so I guess that's part of it as well. But was there anything else going on to where you guys disbanded? Like, what was that experience?
You know what, D, to be honest with you, it was so much going on internally. I can speak for myself. It's just like me. It's just like I was just going through just that moment of just like, yo, like what's going on with me? Just kind of just lost. You know, it's just like it may seem to the world that you have everything, but on the inside you're so broken. And it's just like I was jacked up. You know, I'm having my moments of like, yo, like God help me, you know, help me get it together. I'm not gonna do this no more. I'm not gonna do that no more. And just as soon as he helped me, you know how it goes sometimes. Just as soon as God helped you, like, yo, look, I'm good. I'm all right. You know what I mean? You be like, I'm all right. I'm good. I can do my own thing. And it was just like internally, it was just like, I just believed that because of what was going on with myself. And then it was just like, we had our moments of just being sisters, you know, you being sisters. And it's just like, whatever with you. And it's just like, but if the love was still there, I think that more or less it was just like, because of what was going on with me, I can speak for myself. I know that it had a lot to do with the things that was going on in the group, because I was all over the place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just, I was all over the place. And so you can't keep something together when one person, a major part of what is supposed to be like solid, is kind of all over the place. And that thing ain't solid no more. It's just like, yo, listen, it became just a mess. It became a mess. It was just kind of just like, you know, I can honestly say, D, that it was just like, it's not the fact that it wasn't fun anymore, but it wasn't to the point where I took it serious anymore. I wasn't serious about what it is. You know, when you first come in, you hungry, you know, and it's just like after a while, you kind of just get complacent with it. It's just, all right, okay. Yeah.
And I heard the A&R executive, Drew Dixon, I heard her recently say that the music business is like the worst place for someone who loves music. So it's like, did the industry like affect your love for music at all? Or was it something else? Did it have any other effect on you as a whole or as a person?
You know, no, I would just say that it was just me. You know, it's just like Pamela changed, you know, the depth of who I was changed. And it's like when that happens to you, like when it's just like you get caught off guard, you thinking that you're good, you know, but when you become complacent in something and you kind of just start kind of just looking at it as, you know, it's just like, oh, okay. It's just like, oh, okay. It's just like God look at you and be like, oh, okay, that's what it means to you now. And it's like, I believe you open yourself up for so much more. And that's what it is that that happened to me in my life. It's like, I became so prideful. You know, you wouldn't think you wouldn't think that it was pride, you know, quote unquote. And it's just like, but I became so prideful to where it was just like a fall. What happens? You know, one thing I've learned that the Bible says is that, you know, before a proud look, you know, pride comes before a fall. That's it. You know, and that's what happened is that, listen, your girl just.
Wow. So that's actually a pretty good segue. I want to start to talk about the book. And I was definitely blown away by the transparency. You know, there are things that you put in that book that if, you know, you didn't say anything about it in the book, you could have taken that to your grave, you know. So where were you in your life where you decided that it was time to write a book, number one, and to write a book so personal? Where were you?
D, if it was up to me, I honestly would have just kept my mouth closed, you know. But it was the Spirit of God that was just pressing on my heart saying, write your story. And I was just like, all right, God, like I never wrote a book before. What do I say? What do I do? And as I was just like, yo, and as I begin to, like I say in the beginning of the book, as I begin to write, it's just like, I'm like, yo, wait a minute. My heart's saying a little bit too much. let me slow down, and I don't want to say this right here. Like, God, you really want me to let people know about this? Like, what are they going to say about me? What are people what they going to do? And all of these
Right.
questions going through my mind. And I'm just like, yo, I'm like, I'm like, what am I going to do? But the only thing I knew to do was just to be obedient and just to be like, all right, God, I got to realize that at the end of the day, what's more important? And what's more important is that, for one, being obedient to God. And then two, on top of that, is that if somebody else can be free, if it's one person from me telling my story, indeed, then it's worth it, because God seemed fit that it was worth that one person for me to let all of my laundry, all of the dirty laundry go, for me to, and it's not about somebody else. It's just like, I'm like, God, like this is my life, like everything that I've done. Like, you want me to say this?
Yeah.
And it's just like, and I look at that as the love of God, because it's just like, for somebody else to know that they're not the only one, that to me is just like, wow, God, like, yo, like, you are the ultimate God to let me know that I'm not by myself. Because a lot of people believe sometimes that they are by themselves in something.
Oh yeah.
Because I know I did. There were things in my life that I thought that I was by myself with, and to get the response that I'm getting from the book, for people hitting me up and DMing me saying, Pamela, thank you, because I mean, dudes telling me, yo, I thought I was the ugly dude, and a grown, I was the ugly dude, or I went through this, and you don't know how much of your story is my story. And even working with on the book, I can be as transparent as this. It's just like, when it came to, putting everything into a book, financially, it's like I'm working everything and doing all of this and paying my bills here, paying this and doing all of this stuff by myself. And it's just like, there was a woman that said to me that was actually doing some artwork to finish up the book. Like, she was putting some things together. Actually, it wasn't the artwork, because shout out to the young lady. Her name is Elizabeth Moore, who did the cover. It was her first time ever doing a cover. She told to this magnitude, and it was just like, she nailed it. So I gotta shout her out. Yeah, she's amazing. And but with that, the woman was putting some figures together as far as the dimensions and all of those things. And people get paid what they're worth. And she heard that a price that I was just like, look, this is my price. I can't go any further than this. And her thing to me was that, her words to me were, I have to help you get this book out. She said, because some of your story is my story. And I was just like, wow, God, I had no idea, never met the woman a day of my life, didn't know anything. So I just say that I can see God's hand through the whole process of it, because like, financially, when all of this was going down, I was just like, God, I said, God, how am I going to do this? But it was like his favor. He showed me so much favor, so much grace, that allowed me to be able to get this book out. So that's when you look at it and say, okay, this is way beyond me. It's way beyond me too.
Right. So I'm the type that when I read a book, I got to dig through it and take out the highlighter and everything. So I want people to read it for themselves, but I highlighted a few things myself that I wanted to get you to expound on a little bit. So the book sets off immediately with Ugly Girl, chapter called Ugly Girl, right? And you say, I was a victim who was tortured mentally for years by this 4-letter word that I embraced. It was so deep in the mental recesses of my mind that when I heard someone refer to me as pretty, there was no room for belief in what they were trying to convey. I was already convinced that it was a lie. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, about, considering yourself or having others consider you to be the ugly girl, and what that did to you and what that journey was like?
Right. I had such a scar, it's just like, it's almost like it was like somebody trying to tell me something in a different language, because I had carried this word with me for a good bit of my life. Like I said, I was this kid that was, I was a loving kid, just had seemed like I had my life ahead of me, no issues, no problems. And then all of a sudden, here comes this word ugly. And it's just like, it damaged me to the point I was so damaged to where any other word besides ugly when somebody spoke to me about how I looked. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't grab it. It's like what? I'm waiting for somebody for the rug to be pulled from up under me. Even when I became a teenager, even in my adult years, you know, I'm looking. Even when I got married, D, it's just like I'm waiting, and I'm just like, all right, dude, like whatever, okay. I'm waiting for you to stop playing the game, and then all right, whatever. And it's just like it made me start to put myself out there in ways, because it's just like I felt privileged for somebody to have me, opposed to just being in a relationship with someone. It was just like, it's almost like a privilege. Look at how you look, and then look at me. I couldn't see myself. You know, I had my moments, D, when I was just like, oh, okay, I'm feeling myself a little bit. But here come that blow again to tell me you ain't nothing but an ugly girl. And then it's just like the very things that I saw society say, or what I saw the dudes run after, or what I saw, somebody that I was feeling, you know, and somebody else that didn't look like me walk past, and I see their response to them, and I'm like, that's not me. So it's just like, and I don't get the same response. I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'm the ugly girl. So whatever it is that I have to do to be, and I believe in my mind, what happened to me was that it's just like, whatever I have to do to be pretty, then I guess that's what I got to do.
Yeah. And so there's a connection in when you get to chapter 9, the wrong attention. And there's something I highlighted where it says, and one day the truth revealed itself. It was my secret thirst for attention. I craved it. I wanted it. And I even believed that I needed it. I wanted someone to notice and yearn for me. I'm not talking about the attention in a sexual way, but in an I love you and want to hug you type of way. I wanted to hear that I was beautiful and that I was special, but I didn't receive that. So I chose what was in front of me, even at the cost of me feeling degraded. I desired more for myself, but because I was so used to being treated badly, this was part of my norm. I allowed myself to be devalued because of the lack of love I had for myself. So even, you know, getting to a point where you were getting attention and I guess it fed one part of you, it basically took away from your entire being because you were actually degrading yourself in the process. So like how long did it take for you to make that connection that that's what was going on? Because in the moment, it may feel good that you're getting this attention and it may be fulfilling that vanity, you know, type of need, but it's actually hurting you even deeper inside. So how long did it take for you to make that connection?
You know what, D? As that young girl, I knew it. You know, it's just because I hid it. You know, it's anything that you hide, it's just like, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I knew that it was wrong, but it's just like, it fed that part of me, even though you just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to say this. You know what I mean? I don't want to be on the phone, you know, and at the time, like, to be honest, it was my cousin. You know what I mean? Like I said, like in the book, like, this is my family. And it's just like, I'm like, what the heck is this? And I'm like, yo, dude, you tripping. Like, how you talking about coming at me like this? And I knew that I never was intending on having anything sexual go on with him, but it was feeding that part of me that was just like, yo, I'm not getting this from nobody else. And it's just like you said, that vanity part. It's just like, I wanted to be loved, but I knew that this wasn't love, but at least it was some type of attention, you know? Right. And that's the thing that was going on with me, D. I was so broken, and I knew then that it was wrong. I was just like, if anybody was to ever hear these conversations, if anybody was to ever know about this, like, this would be off the hook. You know what I mean? Like, yo. And it's just like, I really do just thank God for being transparent, having me be transparent enough to say it and to speak about it, because I know that I don't know who else has went through it, but I know that it's somebody else that went through it. That's probably like, dog, she said it. Because I know of some who have confided in me about some things that went on within their family. And it's just like, woo, you know, but at the end of the day, I knew what I went through. And it was like a woo. And I didn't think that I was ever going to have to tell my side, you know, until God decided for me. And it was either up to me to be obedient or not to be. Because
Right.
I believe he downloaded in me. Like I said, this is just pieces of me. It's so much more, D. And it's
Yeah.
just like, I asked him, I prayed, I was like, God, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to write about? And as I began to write, I was like, oh my goodness, this is not going to be, this is not going to be good. This is what, you know, it was good to get it out. But I was like, to some, it's going to be like, yo, like, who's she talking about? You know what I mean?
Right.
Who's she talking about? But at the end of the day, D, you know, I said this in another interview that I had. It's like, I give God praise and I thank him because it also shows me the love of God about how he'll still cover people. He'll still cover you and give you an opportunity like, yo, I didn't out you all. Your name is not there. But you know that if you read this book, you know who you are. And you have an opportunity to ask God for forgiveness if you haven't. You know what I mean? Like you got an opportunity to say, God, you know what? I know she's talking about me. And I know what I
Yeah.
did was wrong. And I ask you for forgiveness.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that as well, because when early on in the book you get to the chapter, The Predator, right? And there's this switch where you go from telling your story to speaking directly to the person that did this to you. And even I had to go back. I'm like, wait, hold on, what just happened? And so you're speaking directly to this person. So, and there's three instances where that happens in the book with, you know, three different people. So was that an intentional decision, like a conscious decision, like, okay, I'm going to now speak directly to this person because I have something to say? Or was it a more organic thing that just happened as you were writing the book?
Yeah, D, it was more organic because like I said, I never wrote I never wrote a book. So the editor, she was saying to me when they was editing, it's like, okay, you talking in first person, second person, third person, you talking a lot. But it was just like, and I thank God because the first person that edited my book was my apostle. I trust her.
Mm,
She's actually a great woman of God, and she's a friend of mine. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I honor her and respect her. You know, friend, she's a friend, yes, but when it comes to the Lord, it's straight up and down. It's just like friend is out of the, you know, you sit down. And it's just like, you know, at the end of the day, she edited the book and she was talking to me about it. And she said to me, she was just like, it was certain things that she said. She said, I don't want to change your wording in the way that you spoke about it. She said, because
mm-hmm.
it's you. And so and I thank God for that. And for her being able to speak to me in such a way is because of the fact that she spoke to me in such a way, I was able to tell the next person that looked it over is that please don't change the way. I know that my writing seems a little bit to be kind of all over the place because I never wrote a book before, but it's me. You know, this is me. This is the way I talk. And so that was really how all of that came about.
Gotcha. And so I guess as you were going through those particular parts of the book, well, writing can be cathartic, right? And as someone who started to journal, you know, more and more, I know for myself that writing things out can be very cathartic. So had you already received some sort of healing from those situations, or has writing been part of the healing, or is there still a whole lot of healing to be done? So like, where are you with a lot of these things that you've addressed, you know, in terms of your healing?
Right. In areas of my life, D, there was a lot of healing that took place, you know, even for the predator. I can speak from there. It's just like, you know, as far as that situation goes with the predator, I have forgiven him. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have anything in my heart. You know, I thank God, like my heart is free, clean, and I don't have any issues because my thing was that, like, at the end of the day, like I said in the book, his relationship with Christ, for him to gain a relationship with Christ is the most important thing, was the most important thing that could ever happen. And that
Right.
alone to me was it. You know, even though I went through all of these horrible things in my life, God took my misery and made it a message. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just like, it's just like, I can still champion with Christ. It's just like, okay, it wasn't like God had put these things in my path for it to happen to me. No, it was the choices that people made. You know what I mean? Because God gives us all the choice. God gives us all a choice. And so what it is that people chose to do certain things to me. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something that they have to take on between them and God. But at the same time, too, me, I'm supposed to have a heart of forgiveness because
Yes.
what haven't God forgiven me for?
Right.
Is so many things that I have done. You know what I mean? I may not have done what they did, but it's stuff that I did, you know, regardless as to what, that was still out of the will of God. So even with that, it has been healing. I'm still healing. Because even I can be honest with you, when it comes to ugly girl, that's still an issue that the enemy still tries to bring up. The devil, here he come. He be like, yeah, you still that ugly girl. And it's just like, I still battle, but my battle is not the way that it used to be, because I'm learning more and more that, yes, I am beautiful. I may not be everybody's catch, but I am the catch of, first and foremost, of God. And so I have to know my beauty. I have to know what beauty is and what God has given to me, because everybody has beauty. It doesn't mean that, oh, okay, I like this person. Somebody else may look at them and be like, oh, and I'm learning is that, listen, what is ugly? What does ugly really look like? And if we really be honest about the situation, to me, the only ugly thing that exists is the devil, and that's evil. You know what I mean? And so other than that, I've never read it in the Word of God. I've never read it in the Word of God where God calls somebody ugly. Never.
Yeah.
Never read it. So I think that a lot of times is that because of what had been, created in society in the eyes of man, and, and all of these things, is that now it's just like, the competition, or this one or that one and that. Listen, okay, I can understand somebody saying this is not the person that I would like to be with, but to put a title on them is not right. And so those are some of the things that I've done in my own life, who, like I said it before, you so hurt and so beat down in your life, then you turn around and do the very things to somebody that was done to you. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I was there. I've been there, D. So it's just like I'm still healing in areas, and I thank God that he's still healing me in areas of my life, and I'm not ashamed to say that. And don't get me wrong, it's an everyday process. It's an everyday process, and I see how he's doing it because I'm learning how to love me. Something that I never did. I can love everybody else, but when it came to me, D, it was something that I thought I did. I thought I loved me, but no. Because I couldn't see the real me. I'm learning that the real me is not even, I heard this man of God say it yesterday, right? And he was talking about the spirit of rejection that a lot of people have, you know what I mean? And he was talking about so many people feel rejected. And so D, I had this spirit of rejection that I didn't even know that I had. And I'm listening to him explain this, and I'm listening. I'm just like, wow, God, like, dog, God, that's what that is. And so I'm listening to him. And what he said, he said, when you look in the mirror and think that you're just this, he said, you got it all wrong. He said, because the real you is the spirit man. He said, this is just a shell. It's a spirit. It's just a shell, D. And so I'm learning that who I am is really in my heart. And that's what shines the most. And when I know that, and it's just like I'm grabbing a hold of that more and more, because all I've ever known beauty to be was the shell, because that's all I've ever heard. That's what I heard people saying so much. And it's just like, oh, look at them, look at that, da, 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 da. Look at how the body is built, this and that and that. So I'll never forget, D. I said to my mom one day, I said, Mom, is it wrong to like a person because a guy because of how he looks? And my mom said to me, and she just, she was so dope the way she said it. She said, there's nothing wrong with liking somebody for, what they look like. She said, as long as you're not shallow. And I was just like, And I've been shallow all my life, D, because that's all I've ever been. I've only always seen surface. So if the surface look good, then everything else got to be good. Absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. It's about the depth of a person. It's the depth of the person that makes them beautiful. And if that's jacked up, walk away. Walk away.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you explained that, because as I was reading the book, that was one of the things that I was waiting for. It's like, okay, did she ever get to the point where she can start to see herself as beautiful, and what is that, right? And so, and I think it's I have it here, chapter 11. You did make the comment, I see beautiful women daily, including myself. So obviously you did get to the point where, you could look at yourself both, I guess physically and internally and say, I'm beautiful, and I think that's amazing. That's amazing. So there is a chapter that seems to be obviously directed towards Puff. I don't want to get too far into it, but it's been known that, everyone's relationship with Puff can be kind of complex and conflicted. And I think that you articulated it pretty well towards the end of the chapter, where you say, what was once a little boy's dream, you took courage and mixed it with perseverance and became a mogul. That, my friend, is a phenom. But somewhere along the line, you got tainted, and instead of you helping others reach their dream, you began to steal them. Not sure what happened to you, but I hope you get back to your heart of innocence. Tell me a little bit about that.
Wow, D. You know what, D? Just being that some of the things that we went through as far as being signed to the label, it's just like, there was some things like it's just like we caught the bad end of the stick, in all honesty. It was just like, I can't blame everything, and I won't blame everything on Bad Boy and all of those things. But what I will say is that when you know that an artist, you know what I mean, this is the way that we eat, and you take certain things away from an artist. In certain areas, of course, the record label is supposed to capitalize, right? But when the artists don't capitalize at all, and it's just like, it's almost as if it's like me giving you a handful. You've given me your everything. I'll say it like this: you're giving me your everything, and in my hand, and it's two hands. Mm-hmm. In one hand, there is millions of dollars, and in the other hand, it's 10 pennies. Mm-hmm. And that's all you think that I'm worth because that's what you're giving me. Mm. It's just like that to me. It's just like that says something to me, like, yo, like, how can you sleep at night? Like, how can you be at rest and at peace with yourself when it's like that across the board for artists, the artists that have helped you to gain success? And so it's just like, it teaches you a lesson because D, at that time in my life, it's just like, I didn't do the homework. Of course, I'm a young girl and, my mom is she don't know anything about the business, but that still does not negate the fact that I should have done more research, more business, and all of those things. Because if I had, I would not have been in a predicament that, him having all of these lawyers and all of those things. I can't say that it was directly him who made all of those decisions. But at the end of the day, you had to know some of those decisions that were made. Right. You know what I mean? You had to know some. And with that being said, it's just like, dog, did you ever think about us in the long run? I know that you want to make sure that you're okay, but in the long run, because we did this together is what we thought. You know what I mean? We thinking that this is a togetherness, but at the end of the day, it's a little lopsided, way lopsided. It was a little bit more. There's a little bit more that we got stung at as artists than he did as a producer. Right.
So let me ask you this, because you have three people, throughout the book. Well, more than that, but in terms of men, there are three men that, you direct some statements or energy towards. And we talked about, we talked about two so far. So the family member, your or Puff, and then your husband as well. And I want people to read the book, so I don't want to go too far into the story with your husband. But I guess with all that being said, ex-husband. Yes. I'm sorry, I apologize. Ex-husband, I apologize. But with that being said, how would you describe your relationship with Black men when you have some key people in your life from a mentorship perspective, from a love perspective, from a family perspective, who all, in some ways, who all could be considered predators, right? So how would you describe your relationship with Black men at this point?
You know what? I would describe it as great because you know what, I chose the wrong one. It's something about when you pick them. And it's just like, to be honest with you, I didn't know the situation as far as when it came to two of them. But the one I did know. And it's not to throw any shade on the marriage or anything like that, but I just knew that we weren't supposed to be married, But that comes with the fact of how I thought about myself and what I thought about me. And I wrote in the book and I spoke about, I'm the pick of the litter, like this big fish, you know what I mean? Right. And like, he want me. And because of me being so down on me, I chose it anyway, because there was a time when I spoke up and I was just like, I don't think we're supposed to get married right now. And I did say that. And then from there, it was just like, yo, man, listen, I don't know what and then it's just like, I'm like, I can't lose him because look at how he looked. You know what I mean? He wants me. And so it's just like, and it's just like with all of that being said, D, I thank God that it's just like my relationship with Black men, I love them. And it's just like, I'm waiting on God to send me my king. But this time around, I know, it's not about my choice. It's about me saying, okay, God, what's your choice for me? Because I trust God enough to know that he's not going to do anything to harm me. It doesn't mean that everything is not, you're not going to have an issue here or there, but I know you'll work it. It'll be able to be worked out. But me choosing for myself, the way that I was choosing, no. All you do is get beat up over the head with stuff like that. And it's just like, I can't even direct it on him, and put everything on him. I got to look at me and say, look at what I've done. Yeah. I've helped to create this, not the things that he did. Now that was on him, what he did. But if I didn't choose him, I would have never had to experience what I experienced.
Right. We don't have that much time left, so I want to end on the day I said yes, that chapter, right? So there's a passage where you say, I was standing in the mirror looking at myself. It was me, but it wasn't me. I could see that it was clearly my image, but something about me was so unrecognizable. I stood there trying to figure out what was wrong. I don't know why, but I had this heaviness on me and I began to cry. I cried the whole day. I went back to my brother and told him these words. I can't do this anymore. I'm about to give my life to God.
Yep, D.
That kind of speaks for itself, but tell me about that.
D, I promise you, it's November of 1999. I will never forget it. I cried the entire day. It's like I'm looking at this girl and I know me, but I don't know me. I had become so unrecognizable to myself, just doing stuff that I never thought that I would do. And I'm just like, what is wrong with me? And I couldn't get a grip on things that day. And it's just like, I'm standing there and I'm just like, like what is going on? And I'll never forget it. Cause at the time I didn't know the voice of God, but I remember hearing, if you do not give me your life, you are going to die. Indeed. When that day, I never even said, you know how they say the sinner's prayer, Lord, come into my heart and save me. I never opened my mouth, D. My heart cried out to God. And I knew that something happened to me. And that next day, my life has never been the same. Christ really came into my heart and he saved me and he opened up my eyes. D, I promise you, I've never, ever been the same since. And that day, I had it was just like, who am I? What's going on? And I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. And my brother at the time, he was like, all right. Because it was just like, he's like, all right, baby girl, okay. But he and I had been having conversations prior to this about the Lord. You know what I mean? Because I grew up in church and we would talk about God here and there and we would leave it alone. But that day, I was just like, I'm done. I was like, I can't do it no more. Indeed, from that moment, from 1999 up into 2020, my life has never been the same. And it has been a beautiful journey. And I'm thankful to God for saving my life because I don't know what could have happened to me. And I know now that there are two deaths. It's a spiritual death and a physical death. And I want neither one of them, and I have life in him now because of Jesus Christ, him saving me.
Total exposure, y'all. Pamela Long. Wow. That's beautiful, Pam. Thank you so much for this book. I know that it's going to help a lot of people. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me and sharing your truth with me. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And where can the people find it? Where can they find the book?
They can find the book. You can go to Amazon.com and you can get it on paperback or ebook form. You can go to get an autographed copy. Your autographed copy, you can go to Pamela Long, 4ever.com, and you can copy from there as well too. Ebook, paperback, Amazon.com, or either you can get your autographed copy again from Pamela Long, 4ever.com. I had to gather myself just now, D. My eyes got a little flooded up just thinking about just how good God is. And
Listen, you almost got me a couple times. You almost got me a couple times. People know that I will cry, so I had to hold it together. You almost got me a couple times. Wow. Wow. So Pam, thank you once again so much. You're a jewel. I told someone after I finished with the tour with you guys that I felt so blessed being with you guys because it felt like I was in the right room because I felt like God was there. You know, of course, God was covering the entire tour, but in that room with you guys, I didn't expect to feel the presence of God the way that I did. You know, I didn't know what to expect. And I definitely felt it with everyone, but specifically, I felt that energy, you know, with you. So thank you so much for who you are. And I praise God for you. So thank you again. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay low and keep firing. Peace and love.
Bye, D.